And welcome to the May 9th, what should have been opening day at the OTLBC, but instead is a Zoom meeting, a forum with our membership and with our board of directors to give you an update on these unprecedented times. I think I'm going to take my hat off. I think you've seen my OTLBC hat. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of this discussion and important updates. A couple of things on Zoom etiquette, just to remind you, please stay on mute all, just so everyone can hear and so that we can record in a nice clean audio. Please use the chat for questions, and we will do our very best to answer the questions that have been answered or sent in advance first, just to honor those folks that ask questions. And Gary Catlin will be acting as moderator. Gary, do you want to wave? I don't know if I can find you. There's so many people on the call. But if you can, just wave, okay? Super duper. So he'll be checking the chat, and he'll be moderating things as we go along, okay? So the format for the meeting, just to give you a sense, we will be having the topics discussed in this sort of hour-long meeting will be club operations, club opening, which I know you want to hear about, club financials, AGM, and a really wonderful fundraising update. So do stick around till the end of the call. The format will be the same for each topic. Board representative will speak, and then we will take questions on that topic. And we'll answer our questions previously submitted as well. So there will also be time for general questions at the end, and maybe that can be more of a free-for-all and we can have a few more discussions. But you can imagine with over 100 people on the line, we want to try and keep this as efficient as possible. So I'll start with overall comments. The club's overall financial position is strong. We had a small amount of money saved for an emergency, and this certainly qualifies. We want you to know that we have not spent any of your early bird registration money. It is earmarked in a separate fund. And we also want you to know, as you saw in my last ground strokes, that the club has a financial cash flow to make it to October. Perhaps if there is no tennis at all, which it does not look like anymore. There were points when we thought there might be no tennis this summer. I'd also like to take this opportunity just to introduce you to the OTLBC loyalty program. This will be our program that will be managing refunds, credits, and whatnot. So if any early bird purchaser needs a refund immediately, of course we will honor that, full stop. For others who are in a financial position who will be able to take advantage of the loyalty program, we hope there will be many of you. We look forward to sharing that with you. The basic format is, if you're going to purchase a full-priced membership for 2020, you can transfer a credit for your unused months into 2021 season. As our way of saying thank you, we will be giving you 5 extra guest passes and a gift card to the Cameron restaurant. For those of you that don't want to purchase a full membership for the 2020 season, there will be prorated options as well. Our main objective with the OTLBC loyalty program is to reward our members for choosing to stay at the OTLBC for 2020 and 2021 season. Your dollars will help us fund ongoing expenses through the winter, actually, to make it to 2021. And at this point, as your chair of your board of directors, I am inviting you to purchase your memberships for the 2020 season by June 1st. I'll tell you why. This will help us forecast membership demand, help the club calculate a break-even point, and this will be attached to the 2020 season. How many memberships, how many courts, and it will inform directly our decisions about how many courts to open, and quite frankly, you know, if there's enough demand to open at all. So we will move into, actually, maybe I'll take questions on this one first. So you can unmute yourself, or maybe I'll turn it over to Gary. Gary, can you unmute yourself and manage questions? I think I can unmute you.
Go.
Yep.
Any questions?
In the chat, or?
There aren't any in the chat.
Cool.
Currently.
Okay, cool. let's keep going. Thanks, guys. I'm going to, at this point, pass it over to Maria to talk about operations and opening, which I know is an important discussion. Maria, take it away.
Thank you, Jenny. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to say that I miss you. I miss being at the club. And it is a treat to be able to see you all via Zoom. So thank God for the technology. And you know, not a beautiful day for an opening day anyways. We would have been seeing some snow, I think, in our opening celebration. So I think we're okay with our coffee at home for the moment. And as Jenny mentioned, the possible opening of the 2020 summer season will be determined by mainly the government, public health officials, and all the guidelines that will be provided by our authorities, and as well as the financial sustainability of our operations, like Jenny mentioned, you know, trying to find a break-even point where we don't open to lose money and to lose a little bit of the little wealth that we have accumulated over a few years. As you know, some of our fixed costs are not cannot be reduced or prorated. If we have less members, we don't have a smaller bill for our insurance or our property taxes that are quite big. We do need to have some structure to provide minimum maintenance to our facilities in order to keep them safe. So those are expenses that, whether we open or not, we'll have to incur, and that's why it's important to know in advance what the situation will be, and if we are able to sustain break-even operation at minimum. So I'm going to touch a little bit on areas, just because there's a lot of information, and I apologize if I go too fast. I promise you there will be a lot of opportunities for questions. I'll start by saying that the situation is unprecedented. We don't have a lot of references. A lot of businesses are in the same situation as we are, trying to find what are the best practices and learning from each other. So we are in the same bus, and we are collaborating with as many organizations as we can. So I will start with our tennis courts. As you know, we don't have water services during the winter. So I'm working with the City of Ottawa to get the water service back on. I'm on my 8th appointment cancellation, and the last one was yesterday, and it was impossible. But the city has been very helpful, and I have explained to them that even if we were not to open, the courts need to be water. We need maintenance, and the tennis courts are the club's main asset, and they are very responsive to that. So I'm very positive we will get the service, that the water service back on, and that will allow us to have a little bit more structure to move on forward to at least providing the setup for maintenance guidelines as well, and also by the club's financial situation and our ability to forecast sustainable operation. So in terms of if we open or when we open, as you know, the opening of the tennis courts is very labor intensive. There are 3,000 nails per court that have to be manually installed, and the guidelines and the social distancing requirements and some of the employee safety measures that need to be in place will slow the process for sure. So I'll give you an example. Sometimes when we are in crunching time, I can see from 6 to 8 people per court, so we can get moving. I don't imagine we'll be able to have more than 2 people working at one court at the same time. But again, all these will be continue to be analyzed and planned. But we are thinking about our possibilities to open, and we are mindful and as eager to get back on the course as you are. There is a little bit of work that needs to be completed in the back courts. So the contractor that did the renovation last year is supposed to come and do that work. So I am in conversations with him as well, and we will schedule his visit to the club and the end of the completion of that portion as soon as possible. Another great news is 2 days before the shutdown of businesses, we completed the installation of our new LED lighting. So I'm very happy to say that, and I know Chris and the contractors probably didn't like me much on the week of March 10th because I was pushing, and thank God I did. And all the fixtures are installed. And there is the adjusting of the angles that needs to be done, and obviously the final measuring of the light to compare to what we were aiming for. So that's great news. And then on that note as well, and it's a little bit further in the financials, we had an application with the energy saving program, and we got a rebate for $11,000 of our project. So that is money that we knew that we applied, but it has been approved. So it helps for sure. Then I know the question is, how will tennis be at the OTLBC with this situation? And it is complex, and it is premature to give you a definite answer on whether we're going to be playing singles or doubles, or whether we will have to play on every second court. All that is being considered. There's a lot of information out there. We of course need to continue monitoring the government and public health official updates, and naturally we are in touch with our governing bodies. We are very much aware of every recommendation from Tennis Canada, from the Ontario Tennis Association, from other international tennis associations, and we are closely looking at best practices from other clubs that have already opened their operations, and there's a lot of information, and we are looking into that. And I also wanted to report that the NCTA hosted a Zoom meeting with all the tennis clubs in the city, and we had very informative and very good discussions around the challenges that we are facing. I would say 90%, if not more, of the tennis clubs run in city property, and of course, you know, the direction there is that they will not be opening before June 30th. One important agreement that we all realized was that it's very important to have common ground policies for all clubs in the city, and all the clubs agreed, and I think we are very much realizing how important it is to work together as a tennis community in the city to better provide a safety environment for our staff, for our members, and for the community at large. So we are involved with other organizations as well, and in addition to that, there is, I will be working closely with club members, Gary Hawks, Carolyn Orchard, and Jim Fawcett on assessing all the existing guidelines, all the information that is available to us to try to come to rules and specific procedures that are applicable to the OTLBC if and when we resume play. So I know there's not a lot of information, but I can give you some information that I see happening. Members will be able to book tennis courts through the phone or via online. So your club account will allow you to book the courts in advance online. So we have that in place, and that will be that I can confirm. The course will be booked in an hour length booking, and that was part of a pilot project that the member experience committee had anyways in place. So I think it will be very helpful and welcome by many members. No tennis events will be hosted. So the Roman Cup and the city championships, no external tournaments or events will be hosted, even if we open. And we want to avoid further disruption to our members and really make sure that you get your tennis without any disruption. So I have been in touch with the Ontario Tennis Association in regards to the Roman Cup, and it's not official whether it's been canceled, but I have expressed our position to give preference to our membership in this particularly challenging year. And another measure that will be in place is that registration and membership tags swipe will be mandatory. As you know, we have to be very organized, and we will need to be able to track individuals that have played in case there is some contamination at the club. So those are things that I know will be in place, and just to give you a little bit of sense that we are working and we're looking into all these details. Complex situation will be changing. Stay tuned and rest assured that we will do the best we can to provide a very pleasant experience and safe experience for everyone. Our tennis camps, we don't know if we're going to be running them. Again, we're waiting to hear guidelines. I have started doing some planning in a reduced group setting, but again, this is changing, and I don't have any further update on that. The building will remain closed for as long as social distance is required. You can imagine every part of the club, and the social distancing is not easy to have. Just an example, the women's bathroom stalls, they don't open past 45 degrees, and you cannot get in and out without bumping into others. So really not conducive to social distancing. However, I will be preparing our security and safety audits that I always do every spring. So we're going to be making sure that the electrical is good, that there has not been more raccoons chewing on electrical wires, and so we have some safety audits that have been planned already. In regards to the pool, and just on the building, we have two major problems. Last fall and last year, we have a serious leak in the men's washroom, and so everything is taken apart. It looks like a war zone. So that is still there because we haven't been able to get back to it. And then we have a serious problem with one of the parts of the flooring in the kitchen. And so the floor is completely rotten, and we don't want anyone going through. So the beginning of the repairs have started as well, but those are the two major repairs to the building that are paused. In regards to the pool, the City Health Protection Services, who is the department that manages the pool inspections before we open, have sent me a letter with a notification that pools are not to open. They have not given me the same deadline or timeline as the city recreation centers of June 30th. The letters simply say we cannot open, and that if there's any change, they will let us know. I will have to do also some work on maintenance for the pool. We need to make sure that there's that the algae doesn't stain our walls, and that there's not, that we don't attract mosquitoes or any other health issues. So same, we will be working on minimum maintenance for the pool. And as regards to beach volleyball and the Ottawa Social and Sports Club, it's still uncertain when they will be returning to play beach volleyball. However, I have been in constant communication with OSCC and RSC's founder, Nikki Bridgeland, as well as with Lael Morgan, the executive director of OSCC. And we are collaborating and working together, and they're our partners, and we want to make sure that they get through this as well as everybody else. So no news on that to share at the moment. And as per the Cameron restaurant, there's no plans to open a full operation. depending on the guidelines and how we are in the summer services that we are allowed to provide, we will adapt some hospitality services if needed. And that is for the operations. Sorry, it's long.
Whew. Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it. So Gary, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, we had two. I think Maria answered most of the questions that came in. They were essentially on the idea of other clubs and learning from other clubs and other associations as they went on. There were two other questions. One about, has there been any lobbying with the government through the tennis associations? That was one question. And a question from Dawn about, what about round robins during the day and evening? So I'll turn it back to Maria to answer those.
Yes, thank you. So the answer to the first question is yes. There has been, there's Tennis Canada, there is the Ontario Tennis Association, and we are very fortunate that in the city we have the NCTA that is in touch intimately with the city due to the large operation of tennis clubs on city property. So yes, there's a lot of lobbying, and I know there's a lot of efforts as well through RSC and other organizations to lobby for sports and wellness. So the answer is yes. And the second question, I don't believe round robins and leagues and any organized play will be in place. As it stands, the recommendations that we're seeing are towards single play, and we are hoping that the guidelines will be clear to have double play, but I don't anticipate round robins and leagues. However, I reserve the right to change if the situation allows.
Okay, there were two more comments that came in, Maria. One, a question, if the building is closed, will there be more outdoor go huts available? And then,
Absolutely.
okay, and then Josh would like to make a comment. So you can unmute yourself and comment, Josh.
Thanks, Gary. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the treasurer for the club, and I don't know if Maria touched on this when she spoke about the finances, though I know it's been in the information she circulated in terms of reports by email, just that we have applied or will be applying for the wage subsidy because the organization qualifies for that. So I'm sure you've heard a lot about the government programs out there. We were also chatting on our call earlier this week related to the volleyball, and we're waiting for more details on the commercial rent assistance program, but presumably, you know, to be able to ensure we can enforce and get paid for that contract, if they're not going to operate, we would work with them as a partner, assuming we qualify under that program as well. So we are looking at all those government programs, and whatever we qualify for, we will apply for.
Thank you, Josh. That's awesome. Okay, Gary, any other questions about operations and opening before we move on?
Oh, they're all there. Oh, that's because they haven't.
Okay, then I think we can go ahead. Maria, you're going to talk about financial and funding.
Yes. So as Josh was saying, we have been and have applied to all the assistance that is available from the government, and I'll just inform briefly before I get into the details of the programs that we have applied, that our fiscal year for 2019 audit statements are completed, and our corporate taxes are filed. So we are in compliance. We have done what we need to do, and the financial statements will be posted on the website probably after the meeting on the board page, so you can take a look. We had a strong financial year, and we have to keep working to make sure that we continue having a healthy financial result every year. As you know, we have a bank loan that we requested for the light project on the course and also for the renovation. And we have worked with our bank account manager to request a 6 months deferral of the capital. So we'll have a little bit of a break during this period from a cash flow perspective, but it's not a gift. We have to get it back. We have to get back with our regular payments. I also applied for the Canadian Emergency Business Loan, the $40,000 loan that will also allow us to have a little bit of more cash flow, and we're hoping, and I'm confident we'll be able to pay it back and then get the $10,000 incentive for early payment. And we are under the 75% wage subsidy. As you know, we have Morgan and myself as staff. We are the only two on staff, and we have applied for both March and April periods, and there's no question we qualified. We had in March we have a lost revenue of 60%, and in April I think is going to be 98% lost revenue. So I think our eligibility is clear. And then as I mentioned, our application for the Saving on Energy Retrofit Incentive Program gave us $11,000. And every year we apply for the federal student summer job grant, and the application was submitted in February, and there will be further benefits to that as well. One indication I had is we work closely with the YMCA in a summer camp student exchange program, and that has been canceled, and that provided a little bit of funding to our camp structure. So I think that's it from the financials, and our assurance and my commitment to be working as diligent as we can and making sure that whatever we spend is the minimum until we can get back on our feet again. Thank you very much.
There were no additional questions asked on the comments with respect to the financials.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you all.
Okay, if there's I'll open it up. Any final questions about financials, or can we keep going? Okay, thanks everyone. Again, we'll have more time for questions at the end. If you're starting to get antsy, go grab a second cup of coffee. There's still more news, and it's good news. So stick around with us. If you're just joining, a reminder, we're doing by topic, and then we're taking questions at the end. So the next item I'd like to talk about is the AGM. So as you know, that our AGM was supposed to be in the month of May, and the reason for that is it's always 6 months but within 6 months of our fiscal year end. Our fiscal year end is November 31st. And so we have applied to Corporations Canada and have received approval to extend our AGM timing to probably the fall. And maybe this would be a great place to just take a moment to acknowledge and thank your OTLBC Board of Directors. I'm actually going to name them all. They've all been amazing. We have been having some tough meetings, difficult conversations, and they are myself as chair. My vice president, who's been moderating, is Gary Catlin. Thank you, Josh Engel, as our treasurer. Susan Youngblood serves as our secretary on the board. We also have Enzo Di Chiara that runs our buildings and grounds. He's going to be a busy guy. We have Peter McKinnon that helps with the communications. Andrew Bradley also serves on buildings and grounds. Marianne Araj, thank you for all your work in the governance and nominations committee. Mutana Subaya has been leading us through strategic planning and other activities, including data. And Gary Hawkes serves as our member ex officio, connecting our board to our member committee. And I'd also just like to take a minute to thank Maria too for all of her hard work. So we're approved for a delay of our AGM. Our current board will serve until the next AGM, so thank you all, appreciate it. When that happens, we will have a new board coming on. This is my opportunity to do a plug for board recruitment. We have done a skills matrix of the board, and we know going forward we're going to have needs of expertise in accounting and finance, in construction, and in legal. So if you are one of those people that would like to serve on the board and support the community with your skills, we would be delighted to hear from you. You can follow up with info@otlbc.com. And as Maria said, our 2019 audited financials are on the board website. And I will pass it over to Gary to take questions. You good, Gary? You might be muted. Yeah, he's muted. There you go.
A question, can we hold the AGM virtually using the same format as this meeting?
Is Marianne on the call? I don't know if she is. If you're there, unmute yourself, Marianne, or else I'll answer.
Yes, hi Jenny. Sorry, I've been having problems with the camera, but
No worries. Go ahead. Do you want to answer?
Yes, I hope everybody can listen to me. Is my sound clear? Yes? Okay. So I'll answer the question. Like Jenny mentioned, we have to hold the AGM within the 6 months after the preceding of the corporation financial year. And our deadline was May 30th. We were able to, like Jenny mentioned, to postpone it. We looked under our bylaws, and we have to abide by the legal requirements because of COVID-19 right now. We have to limit how many people can gather, the physical distance, and there's a director's registry due to act in the best interest of the organization, which entails balancing the need to comply with the legal requirements and the need to protect the well-being of the directors and members and not subject them to the risk of the viral infection. So we've considered to look at the virtual hybrid meetings or just virtual meetings. And unfortunately, under the legal requirements, our bylaws does not permit us to do virtual meetings. That's the lack of our bylaws, and we're actually looking into right now changing the bylaws to make sure for next year that we have that option to actually make virtual meetings. And also under our current bylaws, the board of directors can't even amend the bylaws in order to hold a virtual AGM. We need to have a special resolution, 2/3 of the voting members, to allow that to happen. So unfortunately, we cannot even hold an AGM meeting to allow the members to be able to hold the 2/3 to change the amending bylaws. So right now, we're really, the only option available for us, honestly, is to postpone the AGM right now because our bylaws does not allow it.
Thank you. And just a quick amendment before I go back to Gary is that there have been amendments and accommodations at the provincial level for holding virtual, but at the federal level where we're incorporated, there are currently no provisions. Doesn't mean there will be some, but there aren't at the moment. Back to you, Gary.
Well, there are two questions that were posed. Really, we might as well deal with them here, relating to previous topics about if the government opens up tennis before June 30th, how long would it take to open up? And do we need approval from the city? And another question, I'll have to move up to it. If we open up, would we consider changing our approach to tournaments? Maybe Maria can answer those two.
And in regards of the early opening and how long would it take, we need to make sure that the employees are able to start working on the opening. Our regular openings take, depending on the weather and other conditions, it takes between 3 weeks to a month to open. Sometimes we have been able to do it in 2 weeks. I expect the process to be a little bit slower. So I think it all depends on the water as well. So as soon as I have a clear indication on when the water will be turned back on, we'll be able to determine if the guidelines allow employees to work, to start working on a partial opening. In regards to the tournaments, if you know, we're always trying to be part of the tennis community at large, as you know, as you know, your contribution is your core time. I believe that we're open to discussions, but for the Roman Cup, it has been agreed. So I have spoken to the tournament director, and he understood our need to give priority to our members. So the Roman Cup, it is confirmed that is not going to happen. We have been in conversations with president of the NCTA in collaboration with the Rito Sports Center as co-host. And you know, we're happy to continue conversations, but it seems that right now and during this year, the priority will be given to our members.
Anything else, Gary? I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Sounds good. Just a comment about just, I guess my heart goes out to tennis community across Canada. I got a message last night through Tennis Canada, the seniors program. They're laying off 40% of their workforce, and another chunk of them are going off June 1st because without the Roman Cup, Tennis Canada has no revenue. It's really, my heart goes out to them, and I really feel for them. Sport has been hit, particularly with the large size gatherings, and I look forward to a time when we can get together and watch tennis. The idea of going to the US Open right now sounds really awesome. So just sending out our thoughts to Tennis Canada, OTA, and thanking them for all their work on guidelines, as folks have been saying, and you know, supporting their members. Obviously, it's a trickle down, right? When Tennis Canada doesn't have money, it all trickles down, Ontario, and etc. So we made it. Yes, Marianne, yeah, exactly what Marianne was saying. We're incorporated under the national. So
And,
you've made it. Sorry,
Jenny,
yep, go ahead, Gary. Yep.
yes, there was a question, but what is the OTLBC quorum for the AGM? Marianne, maybe you can answer that?
Yep. If Marianne doesn't unmute, which is totally fine, it is 10% is the quorum. So if we have about 510 voting members, that would be 51 people is our quorum at the moment.
Yeah, sorry, I was answering by chat.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So you made it this far. It's 10:42. Maybe you're going out for your morning constitutional, but before you go, I have some good news. I will now be picking up the thread on fundraising. And this week, the club received confirmation of a $375,000 gift through Canadian Heritage as part of the Legacy Fund, Building Communities Through Arts and Heritage. Emma, can you turn off the TV, please? Welcome to Life at Home. So this is very exciting and a huge milestone for the restoration project, which started almost 9 years ago, folks, if you can believe it. So in addition to that, we have received $14,000 from the City of Ottawa Heritage Funding. If you'll remember, that was part of our designation as Heritage. And with our pledges and donations to date of $328,000, drum roll please, we are at a total of $719,000 raised towards our goal of $1 million. So let's take a minute. Let's all hold up a glass, raise our hands and say congratulations. Thank you. Bravo. This is really exciting, guys.
Yay, us.
Yay, us. That's right, says Peter.
All right.
All right. So I'd like to take a special moment to thank our fundraising committee, Joyce Barber, Beth Everson, Ursula Ruppert, Bernie Sander, Sue Widjaratne. I'd like to take a minute to thank all of our donors, all of you that donated through the NSTF site or who made pledges towards the commitment. Thank you. I'd also like to take the moment to recognize 3 boards that have been part of this project starting back, and I'd like to take a moment to thank specifically Peter Sutcliffe and Mike Lundy, who were the original. Mike, of course, is no longer with us, unfortunately, but they were the spearheads that started this 3 long years ago. I'd also like to send a shout out to 2 other special people who are intimately involved. Enzo Di Chiara, who still serves on our buildings and grounds. Enzo, you're not going anywhere anytime soon. Just wanted to say that publicly in front of 100 of your peers. And Christina Pampura, who was one of the other people on buildings and grounds. She's now in Montreal, but was intimately involved in getting those initial things. As you will remember, we do have shovel-ready drawings. One final note about the grant. The Heritage Grant funding comes with the responsibility to better serve our local community. For example, public funding means that our upstairs great room will continue to be available to the public, and we will be part of hosting community and arts cultural events that are tied to that grant. There will also be plans for a commemoration of the 100-year anniversary of our clubhouse, which is in 2023. Not that far away, and that will of course include the community of Old Ottawa South as we celebrate together. So what's next? You will all have lots of questions, more details to follow, I promise. The plan is to start construction fall 2020. Now you can imagine we're busy thinking about coronavirus and the fact that the clubhouse is closed at the moment, and we will be working actively to pursue this. I want to impress upon you this: the scope of the work will depend on our ability to close the remaining gap of $280,000 to make it to $1 million. So yes, we can start with $719,000, but more money, we can do much more. So with $1 million, we can do the foundation and we can get into the ground floor. And wait for it, the ladies' washroom can be addressed. So I'm going to take questions in a minute, but I do want to make sure that I say this as part of my inspiration for this Zoom call. If you've been inspired by this exciting news and you'd like to take part in this once in a lifetime, once in 100-year project to restore the clubhouse that we love to call our cottage in the city, please consider making your personal donation or pledge. If you'd like to make a one-time donation, you can go to otlbc.com/donate and make a donation online. If you'd like to talk to myself or any of the committee members about making your own personal pledge of $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 or more, please do reach out through info@otlbc.com. There has never been more urgency behind this project. The sooner we have the money, more we can complete, and the sooner the project will be finished, because I'm sure we all don't want to live through restorations at the club that are ongoing. So without further ado, why don't we take questions on fundraising? Let's go.
A question, if more members donate, will there be matching funds from somewhere? Have we requested any provincial grants? And I want to repeat one of the comments in here. Thanks to Jenny, who not only is the president, but has driven the fundraising portion of the work in the past years. So want to make sure that gets underlined, not just the committee members, but Jenny as the leader of that group.
Thank you. Okay. So let's start at the top. Matching funds. To answer that question, the Heritage Grant was never really a matching. We wanted to show, the reason for the impetus last year was we wanted to show Heritage that our members were behind it. And so as money grew, as we got more money, we kept updating our budgets to Heritage. So the short answer is no, there is currently no matching funds. However, there may be somebody on this call that is keen to inspire others and would like to put forward a matching donation. Absolutely happy to talk about that. With regards to provincial grants, one of the unusual things about this project is that this heritage money is actually not coming through sport. It's coming through architecture and culture, and basically the architect of the building and the community that we live in, and the importance of the building. And remember that the National Sport Trust Fund, how we got the tax receipts, is tied to the fact that the clubhouse is connected to a national sport initiative which supports young tennis players. And that's really how those two things came about. At the provincial level, the funding is mostly tied to tennis, to courts, to recreation, which we don't quite fit nicely because we are still have a membership-based club as opposed to a public community. So the short answer is we've exhausted all of the grants. We did get some City of Ottawa money, and as you'll remember, that was a big criteria for the federal grant. One interesting aside, I know far too much about this, don't I? One interesting aside is that the Legacy Grant program through Heritage has never given money in the City of Ottawa or in the National Capital Region. So what they're funding is a 100-year anniversary of something, and it's always been in Winnipeg or BC, so that's kind of cool. And the last one, just to say, it's been my pleasure to, we're not done, just want to be clear, we're still fundraising, we've got a long way to go, but I have 100% enjoyed the work here. The thing that keeps me going is the wonderful, and Maria will talk to this because I talk to her about it all the time, has been the wonderful people and past members and current members that I have met on this fundraising journey. It's very clear to me that the OTLBC holds a very special place in a lot of people's hearts. And I really feel it's important that we honor those memories. I've said before that I stand as board chair, but I look back over my shoulder and see generations of board chairs from years past. Maybe I'll leave you with a couple of things. We'll continue to update you on the status and start dates of tennis, pool, volleyball, clubhouse. If you are not getting our emails, this would be a great time to join on to catch up with everyone and find out what the details are. You can go to otlbc.com, you kind of scroll down and it's subscribe. Please do that if you're not getting emails. And before I close off, let's just see if there's any other questions. Anything?
Yeah, a question about what percentage of the membership has already donated. That's one question.
Yeah.
And then a question about whether the club is still considering a roof for winter tennis to make us more than a 6-month only organization and club.
Sounds good. Okay, I think I'll take both of those if that's okay with my board. The percentage of members who've donated, I know Ursula might be able to help me. Ursula, can you unmute? I can't remember the exact number. If you're there, I can't remember exactly. I can unmute you. There, I'll unmute you.
Jenny, is Joyce?
Yeah, go ahead, Joyce. Do you remember? Go ahead, Ursula. I think you're.
I thought it was 25%. I thought it was 25%, but Ursula, if you got her, she'd be more.
Yeah, it is 25% so far.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
And that
Ursula.
would be from the 2019 membership level.
Great. Thank you very much, Ursula. And by the way, we do have people donating that are not members as well. Just want to highlight that, or some community members as well. The other question is about winter tennis and a roof and a bubble and etc. We have last year, we struck a subcommittee about winter tennis, and we have been exploring it quietly. At this point, the board of directors, there's a huge amount of risk attached to that, and many challenging factors, not the least of which is the fact that Rideau Valley Conservation Authority has purview over, let's call it the first, 20 or 30 meters, Maria, you can correct me on the total amount, from the river. So that makes it really challenging for us we have to work through them, which just adds another wrinkle. You'll also remember that we're in a flood zone, which adds another wrinkle. So not impossible, but perhaps my graceful way of saying it would be for another board. And the other thing is it has to be financially viable to do it. We need to have a business case behind putting up a bubble, and that would have to show that there was a significant amount of profit to be put back into operations. Okay, Gary? There he is.
How will we do the financial simulation to review opening, and when? What information do you need?
Maria, you want?
That's a.
Yeah, so we we have a partial budget, assuming some loss in memberships and revenue. That has to be reviewed as, for example, camp revenue is accounted in that provisional budget, as well as OSCC rental fees. So we will review the cash flow and the budget in the next board meeting, which is in a couple of weeks from now, and hopefully we'll have more information for that. As Jenny mentioned, we are hoping to have enough information by June 1st in terms of membership registration to be able to have security of the funds available to run the operation, the funds that are coming from membership fees. So by June 1st, I believe.
Good. Okay, any other questions? I'm sure you have many questions. Just keep in mind you can email info@OTLBC, happy to answer them. I think this might be a great place to pause and to stop. For anybody you're talking to that wasn't able to make it onto the meeting, I just saw an email come through. We have 100 people on this call, which I think is more than we've had at, well, an uneventful AGM, shall we say. So this is recorded. This will be shared out with everyone and folks can listen in. Maybe I'll leave you with this final thought. Remember to join the newsletter. Make sure you stay in touch and find out what's going on. Please do consider making your own personal donation to the Clubhouse Restoration Fund. You can do that through otlbc.com/donate, or please reach out to myself through info or our committee at info@otlbc.com. I'll leave you with this. The forward-thinking members who spearheaded the move to Cameron Avenue and built this clubhouse in 1923 could never have imagined that we would be meeting 100 years later in a virtual gathering in the middle of a world pandemic, right? And by the way, they built the clubhouse in 1923 for $26,000. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning. I'm available, we're all available through info@OTLBC to take your questions, and great to see all those faces. And yes, I so look forward to seeing everyone on the tennis courts. Thanks. Bye.